Room is the Labour MP and supporter of the People's Vote campaign, Anne McMorrin, and thank you for speaking to us today. So you are obviously campaigning for a People's Vote. We're hearing now that there is a group of senior Leave campaigners who are also preparing for another referendum. Shouldn't you work together?
Well, we're seeing increasing support across the House. Whatever way you support, however you voted, I'm hearing increasing support from my own constituency for a vote on the final deal. And that's just the pressure, the support for that is just getting more and more every day.
To what end do you think a second referendum would help the country?
Well, look, there is absolutely no support for the deal that Theresa May has put before us to vote on next week. We've seen that. We've heard in the House of Commons over the last few weeks. I've been there when MP after MP has stood up and absolutely just diminished her deal. There's no support for that in the country. My constituency, there's no support, but I don't think there's any support for that across the country, across Wales and across the rest of the country. So the only thing to do, the only sensible thing to do now is to say, right, well, if there is this deadlock, which there may well be when her deal is voted against on Tuesday, then we need to put it back to the people. We need to put the proposition back to the people. Do they want her deal, or do they want the best deal that we've already got for the country, which is to be full members?
You're saying that there's going to be no support for the deal on Tuesday. So before going through and putting the country through another referendum, why not renegotiate with Europe?
Well, we know that there's no room for renegotiation. Look, we're two and a half years
I'm just going to jump in there, Anna, because we've just heard from the former Italian Prime Minister, Romano Prodi, who said that the EU will return to negotiations if it is voted down on Tuesday. So they are open to it.
Well, yeah, but what does that actually mean? You know, the best deal is the one we've actually got with our EU counterparts now as full members of the EU. Now, I think this is all set up for her to go back to the European Council, to have a little bit of toing and froing and minor tweaks. But we know that that political declaration means that we're going to be talking about Brexit, negotiating Brexit for years and years to come. That means absolutely no certainty for businesses, none for our communities, and none for the livelihoods and jobs of the people up and down this country, the people of my constituency who really depend on those jobs. And that's what this is about, not the toing and froing of politicians. This is about people's livelihoods, people's futures. That's why we need to go back to the people with this.
OK, so if we get the people's vote, I'm assuming your position here is that Brexit is voted down. The people say no to Brexit. Is that the assumption here?
Well, look, what I want to see is for us to go back to the people with what's on the table versus the deal that we already have now with the European Union. So that will be for the people to decide and the people to tell us what we want. I voted Remain. I think that's very much the best option for us, the best deal for us to work together with the 27 nations. We're much, much stronger together. I think that's better for us, so I will be advocating that. But, you know, if we put this back to the people, it will be for the people to decide.
And just let me know, what would that ballot paper look like? What would the questions be?
Well, look, I don't know what that's going to look like.
You can't say that, Anna. You can't say, I don't know. Because if you're speaking about a second referendum, this is the problem that the British public have had. You know, there are so many unknowns. They're hoping for more clear answers. And
it will be for government and Parliament to decide what's on that ballot paper. I'd like to see it be Theresa May's deal versus the deal we have now, which is staying within the European Union. That's what I'd like. I haven't got a crystal ball. I don't know what is going to happen. I think actually what we need to have is something like they had in Ireland for their referendum, which is a citizens' assembly to come together in a shorter period of something like 6 weeks to decide. That means people are actually coming together from all viewpoints to decide what is on that ballot paper and then putting it to the people. That seems to me the most democratic way forward for this. Parliament is at deadlock. We've seen this. The government is unable to govern. We've got the climate change conference at the moment happening in Katowice in Poland. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about anything but Brexit. We need to decide this and move on. Theresa May's deal means we're not going to decide this. It leaves us talking, negotiating about Brexit for years to come with no certainty.
OK, well, you know, you're a supporter of the People's Vote campaign. I'm assuming that when you're discussing things, you are discussing the questions, and I'm pushing this point because we need more and more certainties. You're saying that people are going, you know, discussing this, discussing that. We don't know, there's no clear leadership. Just how organised is this People's Vote campaign? Because as it is, we're still not hearing what those questions will be.
Well, I've just said to you what I'd like to see, what that question would be. Look, we've got Theresa May as our Prime Minister, the government running the country, unable to govern. I'd like to see her deal versus the deal we've already got, which is as full members of the European Union, on that ballot paper. I don't know what is going to happen after next Tuesday. We'll have a series of events to come there. We've heard Amber Rudd talking about the very real possibility of a people's vote. More and more people, more and more MPs, I think more cabinet members coming towards that view that there will have to be that vote that goes back to the people.
Mr Corbyn in favour of that as well?
Yes, it's party policy.
Okay.
It was decided at conference in September.
OK. Anna McMorrin, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're watching